buffer time? What is buffer time? Is what buffer time?
Hey there, buffer timers. We're here testing out our new studio and new streaming software. We're going to talk a little bit about parents in Star Trek, usually bad. We'll go around as usual and introduce ourselves before we get started. I'm Dustin from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek.
Hey, I'm Lieutenant Commander Eve Zellick from the USS Lilith.
Hi, I'm Dell. I took the last name O'Brien for this one because I'm going to talk about the O'Briens and how they're not as good as everyone thinks they are.
Mm-hmm. And I am Scott of the YouTube channel Opinions No One Cares About.
We care about them.
All right, the fabulous Eve will host and ask us some questions.
All right, so this is going to be one I think that we all have strong opinions on. So this should be interesting. So. Pardon?
I dare say so, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go with the big elephant in the room. How do we feel about how parents are generally depicted in Star Trek?
Not great, unfortunately. There's been with a couple of exceptions. The overall tone is not great for kids growing up as the children of Starfleet officers, mostly.
They're mostly missing a father figure for the most part. Even in the ones that aren't like children abandoned, it's usually the father they have the issue with.
Yeah, that's almost constant across series, yeah.
Which is interesting because Disney's the flip side. It's always the mother that's missing because he had issues with women. So one has to wonder, did Roddenberry maybe have issues with dads?
Just other girls' dads, really, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but...
Okay, so do you think that Starfleet service and parenthood would be compatible, such as raising children in space rather than on a planet?
I feel like we've seen one example of that with Mayweather back on Enterprise, working on or living on a cargo ship. I mean, that did seem to work out. I don't know how well it got fleshed out, but he seems well-rounded enough, even if, he had to spend forever as an ensign.
Yeah, I think it's possible on certain ships. I think if you're just like a cargo freighter that regularly runs between two sectors, it's probably going to be pretty safe. But if you're out on the border patrolling, the Romulan neutral zone and stuff, and the Cardassian border like the Enterprise is, probably not.
I have to say that leads me to Voyager because you have Naomi Wildman, to be fair, who through her mother's, not even her mother's own choice, was born far from home. And her mother is one that you can't really, fault her very much. We didn't see her much on screen, but it's obvious that her and Naomi were pretty close. But in Naomi's case, she had sort of the whole village raising her. Everyone
had Neelix.
Role. She had Neelix. And one of the other questions is, how does Neelix hold up as a sort of surrogate father figure? Neelix is not one of the popular characters.
For Cass or for Naomi Wildman?
I wasn't thinking.
Not for Cass.
No, not for
That's
Cass.
just it. Once you get him outside of the lover roles, he's actually a pretty good parent.
Yeah, he's just kind of like the jealous boyfriend, but he did seem to be really good parent to Naomi. Like he knew how to even handle her when she had anxiety about 7 of 9 and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I mean, even the captain took a little bit of an interest in her and made her captain's assistant, whatever, that was. I'll be honest, the whole service thing makes me think of military families. Can it work? Depends on the family.
And it depends on the socio-political things going on in that region at the time.
Very true. Yeah.
Okay, now my computer scrolled somewhere bizarrely. So, do you think that most child-rearing plots have good outcomes to uphold the optimism of Jean's vision? I hope I read that right.
Way off.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Like, I
Yeah,
think
every once in a
Alexander
while.
comes to a good end. I think Naomi Wildman comes to a good end. So some of them do have good endings, but not everybody.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it's just kind of like, sometimes there's a trope in TV shows with, characters that have kids and they'll like get rid of the kids for a while. Like, what are they doing? Or, well, where are they? Oh, they're here or there or wherever. Charmed comes to mind for some reason. Like the main characters had kids, but then like when something gets serious, like, oh, they're at the magic school, where they're safe. And they're usually only trotted out when it was important to like an episode in particular.
Make them sound like
Yeah,
Windows.
you don't ever see parents like picking their kids up from the school or the nursery, like in the hallways. Once in a while, there's someone walking with a child, but it's specifically like so that one of the characters can have a conversation with them.
Other than Deep Space Nine, because Deep Space Nine, we saw families come and go to the school and pick up their kids.
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true.
But I don't think it was the predominant thing you saw when you looked at the promenade. You didn't always see just families walking around.
No, you usually saw Quark and some Klingons doing.
Yeah,
right.
Okay, so who would we say? Let's do the easy one. Who is the best depiction of parent-child relationship across Star Trek? And to be fair, it's a subjective question, so.
Cisco
agree?
and Jake, hands down. I mean, that's an easy one.
That right there.
Data and Lal.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh.
Dang it. So good.
That
I
is
can't
a
wait to
good
see
one.
how that comes up in play here in the current season of Picard.
I
For
know.
what little
Right.
I'm here for the weird plots, that's one merging all of the Soong stuff into one bot. But we'll get to that on Sunday on our new time slot for Picard.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, it's got to be Cisco. I mean, he's really the only good parent in a high position role model. And I'm going to go ahead and say it because it's going to probably sound weird by somebody's standards coming out of any one of us. But in the 90s, how many depictions of single black dads did we have? And were they positive or negative?
Not enough, but we're starting to get some. I mean, you had Family Matters and stuff
but
like that.
Yeah.
Families, though, like Family Matters and like Fresh Prince and all that, they weren't always single dads. I mean,
That's true. Yeah.
like
I do feel like that Worf and Alex's relation or Alexander's relationship was sort of based on an allegory because in the 90s, that was in the news all the time. It was a very big focus of crime and other things. They would say it's because these men are not raising their boys. And I think that is illustrated very strongly in Worf and Alexander.
What about the fact that Cisco, goes off to be space Jesus at the end and leaves his pregnant wife behind?
He does promise to come back, though.
Yeah, and that was
Yeah.
a really nice ad by Avery Brooks himself. He went to the script writers and said, hey, look, I can't be responsible for leaving my child and wife behind without at least some closure point. So props to Avery Brooks on that one.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like he's ever coming back to Trek, so
Yeah,
Cisco might have stumbled right at the finish line.
Okay, who do we think is the best? Oh, so we did the best. I'm trying to. Okay, let's stick with the lovely, controversial bend we're on here. How do the challenges faced by blended race families compare with blended families now? Considering blended families are, well, at least where I live, blended families are super common. So, and I mean, we see
really
blended
wish Mr.
families.
Know-It-All had been here for this question.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't mind taking the hit. If people want to
No,
get
no.
at somebody, they can go for it because I'm just stating, something that they've obviously tried to play with in Star Trek. Because how many blended families do we have? We have Spock, we have Naomi Wildman, we have whatever her name is, Tom and B'Elanna's kid. We've got
Hello,
so many.
Robbie.
Robbie.
We've got like so many hybrid quote unquote children, like even Dax and Worf were, told that there is no medical reason they couldn't have a child together.
Right.
So, but we also see like the conflicts between when they're two different groups, like B'Elanna and Tom there towards the end when they were fighting because she wanted to alter the baby.
I was also thinking about I've got his name on the tip of my tongue. It's a Deep Space Nine episode where a boy who was born Cardassian but is a cross between Cardassian and Bajoran comes on the station, and he wants to identify more as Bajoran, but the Cardassians want to claim him. His name started with an R. I don't know. But anyway,
Rugal, yeah.
Yes.
And the episode was just called Cardassians.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Oh, that's a bonus.
And somebody even...
Well, thank you, Norman.
And no, it is not too early to talk about Jordy either. I think we're going to touch on that just a little later. This is the late addition to our podcast lineup. But yeah, Jordy this week was weird as a parent.
Really? I don't think so.
Yes, I thought so too.
I mean, a little overprotective because, I mean, both of his daughters are in Starfleet. He's got to assume they know the risks, but then he just wants to protect Sydney.
But at the same time, he's got the disappointed dad thing going too, which is far too much a Star Trek trope. I mean, how dare she not become the engineer that he dreams that she should be? So we get that same theme of Star Trek parents, which was a point we were going to bring up, I think, anyway. Star Trek parents being disappointed in their children's choices.
That felt hacky to me, the way they shoved that in. Like, there was no build up to that whatsoever. It was so frustrating for me on a narrative level. Like, we're just immediately shouting that at each other, and that's like supposed to be storytelling for this show. Frustrating. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I turned you down a little bit even, Robbie.
Oh, okay, cool. Thanks.
You're super clear, actually.
Yep.
Good. Hey, how's my video, by the way?
Actually, really good on this end.
This is the best it's been from you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, thank you.
All we
Awesome.
had to do is change streaming platforms.
So happy to hear.
So, let's see here. Now I'm completely derailed. Okay, I'm just going to go with the first question that's right in front of me.
Go ahead.
How do you think Will Wheaton's upbringing relates to Wesley's upbringing by Bev? And Dell, I'm sure, has plenty to say from that look.
Well,
It's upbringing, so go on.
yeah. So Will Wheaton's been really open about the fact that he did not want to be an actor when he was a child, and that being on Star Trek The Next Generation was something he did not want to do, and that his parents were on set basically giving him the "you're going to do what we tell you to do" look while he's trying to act, and nobody knew about it. And I feel like some of that parental pressure comes out in Beverly and Wes's relationship. I think it may have been hard for Will Wheaton to relate to a warm, caring mother. And so some scenes that may have been written to be that way came across less warm, less comfortable. So I do think that his relationship in being forced to act does play into who Wesley is now.
Okay, now with everybody at the side, I ended up looking like Deep Space Nine was horns on my head, and it was a really cool look. It was a really cool look for me.
Oh, there it is. Whoop, whoop.
There it is.
Yep.
Actually, what you said about the whole Will Wheaton didn't want to act, which he's been pretty open about. Almost makes me think that Wesley Crusher not wanting to really be dragged out into space was also the same idea. Because I mean, we know he wasn't happy on the Enterprise. We know he felt like he was dragged around. There's even that one scene where finally he's with Deanna Troy, and I can't remember what sets it off, but he finally tells Picard all the anger and resentment he's had towards him all those years. Yep. So I kind of have to wonder if that was sort of playing out, and kind of like the scene in The Fresh Prince where Will Smith's dad bails on him again, and he looks at, he's supposed to look at Uncle Phil and just say, whatever type idea, but he ends up falling apart, and the whole scene ended up being 100% genuine. So I have to kind of wonder if maybe, there some of that resentment, he basically took his real life resentment and threw it all on Picard, which is, justified. In his mind, Picard killed his dad, and his mom has been chasing Picard.
Oh, yeah.
Riker and Troy were way more professional than those two.
It's very true.
Okay. Go ahead.
And they do seem to be doing all right as parents from what we've seen. Getting along as best they can, dealing with, the loss of a child and
the child we shall not name.
Right.
Because I know somebody said they didn't want to hear the name again.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that was Dell.
Yeah, and then it seems like, they seem to be raising Kestrel well enough, not like, neglecting her. Like, it's not like the world stopped when he died and they forgot they had another kid, so.
I'm just tired of it being the totality of Riker's plot is to sit down with people and go, we're going to have a talk about my dead son and how it relates to this scene in general, and maybe even the plot of this series. So let me tell you about my dead son. He died. He died really tragically. And we're going to cry about it. And I'm going to cry about it. And then we're both going to have this cathartic release. And then I'll have this conversation with someone else. Your time is up.
Some writer is just like they're living out something with this, like through all this Riker, like feeling bad.
Somebody's working through some stuff, yeah.
It kind of reminds me, and I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but it reminds me of some of those like super, super woke characters on TV where they're not trying to do it, in a way that makes sense, but they're basically ramming something down everyone's throat. And the character's whole personality is whatever catchword or fancy or slogan they're identifying with, and they have no personality. Like on Doctor Who, Bill Potts.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Discovery.
Oh.
Ouch. Ouch. Scott knows the character, I think, that I'm mentioning, that she literally had a one-dimensional personality.
Yeah. Like her entire thing was, basically being gay.
And being being that she was black in Britain. Yeah. Like it was literally every sentence. So that's what it made me think of just now. Okay, so I don't know who said this one, but I know everyone's got opinions on this. Do you think Annika Hanson's parents knew what they were getting their kid into when they went chasing Borg?
Just going to say, ugh.
I think this was Dustin's thing.
Yeah, I'm the expert on the Borg, all thing Borg kids today. And I don't think the Hansons necessarily knew what they were getting their kid into, but they are 100% responsible for not leaving her on Earth with her grandmother that we learn about later in the series.
Right.
Would have taken her in. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the Hansons might just be the worst parents in all of Star Trek.
They're terrible. Like, oh my god,
that
they
is
do everything
really
wrong.
fair, yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a career, but if you have a career where children are not compatible, like either do what Worf does and yeet your kid out of your life because it's more convenient, or, use this wonderful thing called birth control that somehow in the new series seems to be lacking in the future because we've got all these unwanted kids happening. So,
Right?
Now, on the other side of that, I don't think we actually got a question about Icheb in here. But I would argue that on his front, his parents were actually justified in what they did because they had such limited options with how to deal with the Borg. So they used their genetic manipulation techniques, and it's unfortunate that they had to sacrifice one of their kids to do it. But I'm actually behind them on that, and I think what they did was okay. But Annika's parents should have thought twice.
Icheb's parents, though, I don't agree with them doing it a second time.
Yeah, that was a bit much.
One time, yeah, but the second time it feels like it's like a double jeopardy thing. It's like, obviously it wasn't meant to work out, and your kid has no idea that this was his entire fate, and he just finds out now, like, yeah. And I mean, the guy doesn't even get a dignified death in the end.
Yeah, I know. Icheb Borg Slayer would have been a much better title than Icheb Spare Parts.
I'm going to go ahead and assume I haven't seen this yet.
Yeah, I don't think you're not to any of the Icheb stuff in the Borg kids.
I'm trying, man.
You'll forget about it.
Almost
Yeah,
fine.
right.
You'll
But it
forget
is
about it.
Everything else, so.
You'll never see Icheb's death the same way after you find out who Icheb is and what he is.
Okay.
Like, he really did not get an ending he deserved.
No.
But then there's been a lot of that lately anyway, some just pretty lame deaths. So
Do you all think that, like, the generations who grew disinterested in Roddenberry's dystopia have been writing these bad parent roles, like, partially because of that?
conspiracy.
And
Okay, let's pick on another. Actually, this one I'll take a little bit of defending this person. I didn't submit the question, but I'll defend this person. Loxana and Deanna Troy. Loxana Troy, the eccentric mother of Deanna, often embarrasses and smothers her daughter with excessive attention. Discuss how her overbearing nature affects, and then it cuts off. So I'm assuming affects their relationship. But I'll let everyone bash Loxana, and then I'll defend her.
Oh, I wasn't going to bash her at all.
I didn't really have any interest in Basher.
She seems to
Go
have a lot
ahead.
of hate on-
I mean, she probably should have been a little more open about, Troy's late sister, but other than that, maybe she'd be a little overbearing. That's about it.
the late sibling thing I can understand, because I've had friends where they had like a sibling that died as an infant or died extremely young, and it was just too much for the parent, so the parent just couldn't ever talk about it. That was the only way they could handle it. So I don't find that too far out, especially because Loxana is always such a focus on the positive character. Like, even when she's bitching, you get the sense she's just doing it to hear herself complain and moan, not because she really cares. And like, on one hand, maybe she smothers Deanna, but to be fair, Deanna is really cold. There, I said it. For a counselor, that woman is like an icicle.
At
It's a little
times,
too
you
much
are
professional
absolutely
detachment.
Professional detachment. She's out the airlock detached. I mean, I'll defend Loxana. I think she really did try the best she could, and she did really always want the best for Deanna, even if she was trying to set her up with people and everything. But
I really liked her interaction with Alexander, because I was focused on that this week. And so the idea of looking at parenting as a child-focused activity and not as an adult-focused activity, it is about helping the child explore the world, not telling the child how the world is. And I thought that was an interesting contrast in that episode, because I think there's right and wrong answers on both sides. And I think some families lean one way and some families lean a little bit the other way. But I did like the idea that we were, because I mean, by that point, we're already getting a little like Worf is the bad dad sort of feeling. And to compare that to how Lotsana treats Alexander, I feel like that shows how different it could be.
Like that, I mean, Lotsana literally just loved everybody. In a way, she reminds me of a friend of mine who literally cannot fathom the concept that, you know, there might be a person out there that doesn't love her. It's just the way she is. She just like, because she can't fathom ever disliking anybody. So she can't fathom that they would dislike her. It just doesn't register. So she reminds me a bit of Lotsana and that she.
Derailed.
He looks so happy.
Why does it look like they just plunked like a fake Worf head on top of some concrete? I mean, his hair is still glorious and he's in a mud bath. Come on. Okay. I think it's Dell who put in this one. Keiko and Miles O'Brien.
Yep, that was Dell.
Yeah, I'm just going to say Keiko and Miles O'Brien and let Dell have their moment.
I think a lot of people think of the O'Brien family as the best example of a family unit being able to exist in the Star Trek universe. And I disagree pretty strongly. You can start with how Molly was born. The idea that an 8-month pregnant woman is hanging out in a bar. Well, and then she gets stuck there due to an accident. And she's surprised that she gives birth. Like, to me, I would have already been thinking, I really should be in sick bay. There's got to be a way I can get to sick bay from here. Right. And there's an episode where Miles is taken over by a spirit, and you can see that Miles can break through the spirit's control in this one conversation he has with Keiko, where he's like, I know you, I know this baby, like I know all these things, but I'm still going to pick Keiko as my hostage that I'm probably going to kill. And that just seemed really weird to me, that if Miles could break out to have a conversation with Keiko, why couldn't he break out to not choose Keiko as a hostage? And they also ignore Molly a lot. Molly comes in and says really smart things like, there's Rumpelstiltskin in my room, because there is.
Right.
And her family, and I get it. If a kid walked into my kitchen right now and said, there's Rumpelstiltskin in my room, I wouldn't necessarily think that they were telling me 100% the truth. But at the same time, I wouldn't brush it off the way they did either.
Right.
Because for her, it's a real thing, left or right. Whether it's a ghost or if it's an actual manifestation of a child book, storybook character.
Right.
I also think Miles took the promotion at Deep Space Nine without consulting Keiko, and in turn not taking Molly into consideration either, about being on this, you know, this very dangerous place where Bajor is still very complicated and the wormhole is brand new and we really don't know what's going to happen with that. And Keiko's obviously not happy being there. And I'm sure that trickles down to how Molly feels about being at the station in general. But the biggest one I wanted to talk about with the O'Briens is an episode called Time's Orphan.
Boy.
Yeah.
Robbie.
This episode is so insane. Like,
Right.
But it is like if you needed a film to show somebody about like bad choices. Like, we're going to go to an open planet and we're going to let our kid run around without watching her. And we're surprised that she immediately got into some sort of trouble. And we're surprised that we're on a Star Trek show and that there's a wavy, wobbly field somewhere that a little kid's going to walk through randomly because she's not scared of it.
That was a classic wavy, wobbly field.
It really is.
Timey-wimey stuff.
And then the 18-year-old Molly comes out and they're convinced they're going to turn this 18-year-old woman into the 6-year-old woman they remember.
Cool.
And they don't try to meet her where she is now.
Right.
They immediately try to meet her at what they expect. Yeah, I know it had the reset button.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to bring it up because so many people think of the O'Briens as being this really good, close-knit family. Also, yeah, treating an 18-year-old woman like she's 6. I understand she needs to learn and read and write and play ball and all the other things they try to do with her. But there's no receptiveness. There's no, you teach us something now about who you are now. And in the end, they send her away because she will never be the little girl that they wanted.
At the same time, though, she was unhappy and wanted to go back to be fair in that episode. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. But I don't think like that
Okay.
they would have fixed the wibbly wobbly thing.
I wish there was a sub-series where I could watch her like live out her Tarzan-like existence on that little planet. That'd be so amazing. That'd be like an Edgar Rice Burroughs novel in the middle of a Star Trek season.
But they also knew that if they put the big Molly in and they got the little Molly back, the big Molly would disappear forever because that timeline doesn't happen.
Yeah,
And they knew that
really
going
frustrating.
in. Go ahead.
No, I was saying that's really frustrating. The discontinuity in time and A plus B equals C. Yeah, I don't want to think about it.
It's not a great episode, but I wanted to bring it up just as an
way. I hate time travel.
Well, it's
You and
especially
O'Brien.
frustrating. It's especially frustrating in that episode because it's like a non-ending. Like, you just got to this point where it was like, wait, so literally nothing we did mattered at all. Like, that's just a thing that is just going to be wiped away from our memories, and we're just going to be like, huh, that was a weird time, wasn't it? And we're never even going to talk about it ever again. We're never going to mention it again because it doesn't matter to the series on the whole. There's never going to be little jokes about it, real self-aware stuff. DS9 isn't that type of show. It doesn't matter as an episode by the time you get to the end of it. It's so
In fact-
frustrating.
In fact,
It's
the rest
almost
of the O'Briens don't even show up again until the very last episode of DS9 after this one.
Oh
I
yeah.
also wanted to bring up Keiko going rappelling when she was far enough along
Oh yep.
that the child was viable to be put into an alien body, which she agreed to. And there was no issues with compatibility. It was like, no, she takes a couple hormones. She's fine. Like, I know from I've been through a family member getting an organ transplant. And it's not that easy. Like, it takes a long time for your body to adjust having foreign material in. And so her choice to go rappelling, and I know, I am absolutely in favor of pregnant ladies doing whatever they want to do, or pregnant men do it, whatever they want to do until they're in labor. But I also think that if we're looking at good parenting, we're looking at people who took their child's needs as seriously as their own. And I think in a lot of Starfleet parents, that's what's missing. And that's the truth.
I mean, pregnancy is just a rental, or so say the Ferengi.
However,
By the way,
I dare any man to go to his wife and say that when she is pregnant and see what happens.
How scared do you think Keiko is of like Worf and the rest of the Ferengi? Because I swear to God, if I was a little kid and I saw those things, I'd be so scared. I wouldn't be able to help it. Those big ears, like dear Lord.
And also, Keiko is more invested in mothering other children. Like while her kid is in daycare, she says, "I have nothing to do all day. I know.
So don't put your kid
I'll
in daycare.
I'll have all the kids come here, but not Molly, even though she says she wants to.
Hmm.
And she could just sit on the floor and color, but no, she has to go to childcare." Things I notice.
Oh, Dell, to confirm, it does come up in an episode that he never did consult with Keiko. He made the decision unilaterally. And part of that was why she went through the depression over not being able to do her career, because he took her away from where she could have a career as well. So she felt like she lost her identity, like just being a mom.
Yes, that episode would be A Man Alone, and it was on Series 1, Episode 4, because I take notes.
That's one of those.
Okay, so going along with dragging the kids and in a band, letting their kids run around without being supervised, why are so many kids abandoned when things go sideways on a starship?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you see the Titanic, women and children first, starship, everyone for themselves and screw the children.
It is like a trope shot almost of one of the main characters picking up a child who's not related to them and running toward whatever they're running toward. Like they always have some kid on their lap that doesn't belong to them.
How many changelings do you think there are in the Federation right now? Like that are children, masquerading as like little children.
Oh, in Picard, probably a
Yeah, like,
couple. I
in
mean, they're
Picard.
like everywhere.
Children.
Yeah.
Like we're just gonna see them pop up and turn into like bigger like adults or something, like when a big ship is going down or something. No one will ever think.
You and I need
Oh,
to
that's a good
discuss
point.
my newest theory, which is that species 8472, changelings, and those bugs from Conspiracy got together and made these bizarre aliens we're seeing. Dell's having a
I still
conspiracy.
think that's a distinct possibility.
I think it could
With how
happen.
goofy this show has been, yeah, it's
8472
more than a distinct possibility.
8472 was able to mimic everything. Like they made their own academy.
Really?
So, but that's kind of off topic. So why are we leaving kids behind? Like,
I don't know, they're loose weight, you just gotta run. Like you gotta save yourself.
right.
That's the Starfleet code.
I feel like
Yeah, a
also we always see the children and parents separated. We don't, except for maybe Cisco, we don't really see a lot of family time. We see a lot of Starfleet people doing their job while their kids are off in La La Land, off screen, doing whatever. And so when the emergency breaks out, we don't see them because they're coming from different directions and being led by different people. But I think also you see a lack of a parent. Like you don't see Worf breaking through crowds going, "Alexander, escape with me," So I don't know.
that's like the meme where it shows all the titles he lists, and then somebody says, "And the father of Alexander," and he goes, "Who?" Or the meme that I sent to the group earlier where it's like, get rid of all the stress in your life, and it's Worf yeeting Alexander through the air.
You can't be stressful to him if he's barely around.
But yeah, we get a lot of dad issues throughout TNG for such a progressive show, It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it really didn't know how to portray fathers, and I think that goes into Jordy a little bit. Now later in his life, like he doesn't quite know what to do with himself and his kids and his family,
Right.
even though they have all chosen Starfleet. It's like he's lost his mind.
Because they didn't choose this part of Starfleet he wanted. Which is a common thing again in Star Trek. I mean, Wesley, boffed out of the academy and went screwing around with the Traveler, and it upset his mom, and Like Picard is, trying to shove Starfleet down everyone who might be remotely related to him.
Yep.
And then gets disappointed when they don't jump at the chance that he seems to be offering. I mean, I'm half expecting that Kestra gets to be a certain age and Riker and Troy are going to be like, how dare you? That is not a flattering.
He looks so happy to be back.
Wow.
The one side of his
my
face.
man.
Wow.
Okay, even with the, wonderful lighting we have in this clip, you can see the anger.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He
Okay.
really wants you to read a book.
Yeah, what book? Stephen King's It.
I love that book.
All right, this one should be fun because I know a few people thought this one up. What about Janeway and Paris having their evolved lizard babies and then just, dropping them off on a planet and taking off?
It's just what we needed, right? Surprise pregnancy and an abandonment. That's what we need in our track.
It's because Janeway didn't believe in abortion.
Oh, of course.
It's pretty much on par for Janeway. But
They were
it
too
really
evolved
bothers
to
me.
believe in abortion at that point.
Yeah,
It really bothers me that they leave these things in a random biome, though, to destroy the normal ecology of the planet and leave it to be whoever's problem.
You always follow that up and destroy. Like they couldn't possibly be in a positive additive force. They have to destroy that planet.
To be fair, we don't really know how much sure they were evolved, but how much self-awareness and higher brain function did they actually have as, salamander mom and dad? Because I mean, the pregnancy thing, to be fair, would be an animal instinct to breed.
Right, but Janeway could have gone back at any point to get him.
Right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Weren't they supposed to have been like hyper evolved at that point? Something about like how breaking warp 10 was supposed to have that always got me in that episode because they're saying like Tom was like just kept like hyper evolving. So he gets to a point. Oh, there's the baby. No, wait, those are the adults, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be like the end stage of human evolution or something. After we go through a point where we breathe nitrogen and then we die and then we're back and we breathe oxygen again.
Yeah, honestly, if that's what evolved looks like, you can have it. I don't want it.
Well, I think it's really impressive that Voyager was willing to show like conservative parent, like for such a progressive show, they showed Janeway taking a hard stance, making those little lizard babies find their way in the world, become successful businessmen on their own, without the mommy's help.
They're fuller brush salesmen. Now I'm seeing like a salamander in a suit knocking on my door and being like, ma'am, I'd like to show you some of my brushes. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what.
Okay, here's a good one.
Just orphans trying to make their way in the galaxy.
Can you imagine being B'Elanna and knowing that the captain banged your future husband, who wasn't your husband at that point, and how jealous B'Elanna is? And
you think Janeway was thinking? Oh, sorry.
You think Janeway, a woman who had her purse?
No.
You think Janeway was thinking about it 3 seasons later when she had to demote her baby daddy?
Our viewer said they kept them in a tank next to the cetacean house.
Actually, I found the remains of the creatures, and they're in Drumheller, Alberta, in the museum.
Okay.
I can't remember what they're called, but there's a creature that they had an exhibit of, and it looks exactly like it because I burst out laughing when I saw it, and my husband's like, "What are you laughing about?" And I said, "It's Tom and Janeway's kids." And the guy behind me at the museum just burst out laughing, and he goes, "It kind of like that."
I'm going to be really disappointed if Prodigy or some show does not go back and show us what happened to the lizard babies.
Oh, it's got to be Lower Decks. It's got to be Lower Decks.
Lizard baby.
Oh, but Prodigy's got Janeway, and they've got the weird drives that can get across the galaxy.
Let me tell you something. I bet they're
Wow.
easily raking in about 400 grand with their own McDonald's franchise. You know, Janeway raised them up
My
right.
theory is lizard babies mating with the saurians, the dinosaur race.
Oh wow.
God, those are going to be some ugly children.
Just remember, this one won an Emmy for makeup.
Hey, good job, makeup guy. They won that Emmy.
Let's just no. Let's just
Anywho.
wrong.
Yeah.
Just no.
I'm sure our audience is loving our steady pace getting through the.
Of course, he's going to bite you now. He's going to.
All right, we get it.
Okay,
supposed to
how
be
did
more.
Data? Let's go with a different tack. How did Data become one of the best parents with so many bad examples?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't take much when you've got such bad parents to just take the dude that's not even a normal sentient life form to get it and just be from what he's seen and read in textbooks to
Yeah.
be a parent, and that's better than most of the rest of us that just try and learn day to day and learn by failing.
True.
I loved Brent Spiner's acting in season 2 Picard. Like, since we're on the topic of bad parents, like,
Oh yeah.
that was
We
so-
didn't even think of
Him and
him.
Corey.
Oh wow.
Yeah, such a great performance for every episode. I was enthralled with his acting throughout all that. You cut that guy loose, like there's nothing like it. That's maybe that's not added too much. Does anybody have anything else to say?
Okay, I'm gonna go for attacking the person that almost never gets attacked by fans. Saric is a bad parent. I mean,
We're
the
not
guy
wrong.
literally chooses human women, which we've seen in early Star Trek when he would have been young enough to be choosing a wife. There was a fair bit of like xenophobia among Vulcans. But
Let me
at
tell
the
you something though. I bet Saric, he's a wild guy in bed. They had a successful marriage the whole time.
Dude.
man.
at once every 7 years, I'm thinking it's more like the women just aren't interested and take it as a blessing. I mean, actually, Dustin brought this up. I mean, in the original series, Saric literally talks to her like she's his pet dog or something, like, come to be my wife or some stupid, you know? And I mean, Saric, he's like doubly a bad parent because we have more than one version of Saric now to look at. And in every iteration, he's a really bad parent. I mean, he's, you know, disgusted with Spock's dyslexia.
Right.
And, you know, and he's, you know, he pushes Michael to be Vulcan, even though she's really a human child. So it's like, you want to bring humanity to Vulcans, but then you force your humans to be Vulcanized. Sounds like a tire factory. But
Can you Vulcanize my son for me, please?
And then, of course, he has the one son that is a full Vulcan, and he doesn't even act like it.
yeah, and he doesn't even like him.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out more about Cybok and Strange New Worlds.
I am going to give Amanda a pass
No.
because she actually tries. I mean, we didn't get to see much of her in the original series. She was basically there just to be Saric's arm candy. And then, but to see her in Discovery, like, I actually have to admit that's one of my favorite parts of Discovery is getting to see Spock and his mom, because we never got that before. And he never had that sort of animosity to his mother that he did his father, even though she was human. So I always thought that was kind of interesting.
Who was it that played his mother in the J.J. Abrams films? Was it Winona Ryder?
It was
forgetting.
Winona Ryder.
Yep.
Okay, I enjoyed that, even though it was very brief. There wasn't like a whole lot on a story level going on there, but it was nice.
Okay, let's see. Okay, here's one, a fun one. The doctor, when he gets too much autonomy again. Why would he believe designing his perfect hollow family would be better than a realistic one when he's supposed to be doing these things to expand his personality? I mean, I'm going to guess the parents in the room probably wouldn't mind a day or two of the perfection once in a while, but I'm guessing it would get tiring after a while.
Well, I think it also illustrates
After about
sort of
5
what
minutes.
expecting families are like versus what a family that actually has a child is like. The idea that you imagine everything will be like very stolid and stalwart, and they will answer all the rules and they'll do everything nice and they'll get good grades, and then they get a real kid and they find out that it's a ton more work than they thought.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, but he is so Stepford there.
Yep.
But I tell you, when the
Yep.
when the daughter dies, I cry my
Never mind.
eyes out every
Oh my God.
single
Yep.
time.
It's
I
one
know
of the
it's
most
gonna happen.
unnecessary things in Star Trek.
Yeah.
I would
I hate
say
to cut out early, everybody, but I have to be up very early. So you guys have a fun time recording the rest of this little test.
Thanks
Glad
for joining
everything
us,
worked out.
Robbie.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Robbie.
Night.
I won't say that his daughter dying was unnecessary because, I mean, he then has to deal with struggling with death of somebody that, even though she was a hologram, he did care about her. And for the doctor, like, I mean, what is the doctor's job? Fighting death.
Yep.
So for him to have to actually experience it and then make the conscious choice to not delete it from his programming, I think in that sense it was not totally superfluous.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's sad that I'm not even yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can we get rid of that?
Yeah.
Let's talk about something else.
Okay, I'm trying to see here what we have that we haven't got to. Dr. Noonien Sung is on here for data, lore, and God knows whatever else he was creating. I mean, the guy...
Before, apparently.
I mean, well, if you count all his genetic experiments, I mean, the guy was probably the most prolific father in Star Trek. Like Genghis Khan fathering 25% of the world's population or whatever it is.
Right.
All it says is discuss ethical implic. So I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing we're supposed to discuss the ethical implications of Soong's experiments.
I think it's really interesting that he made lore and data. And I find it interesting that their names are what they are. And
Okay.
I don't like that they're billed as brothers. Like, I would rather them be just separate and not try to make them family with each other since they're built so differently, like internal wise. I hate that feeling of like, we're going to pretend you're twins, but you're so radically different that you're going to hate being twins. Ta-da!
Yeah, but how many twins do hate being twins?
Most of the twins I know of, they want to be seen as separate. I know parents with twins literally put their kids in 2 different schools to make it happen.
Yeah, there's a rule at my godsons are fraternal twins, and there's a rule at their school that they can't be in the same class.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be in different, like if you're taking math with Mrs. McGurgan, you have to go take math with someone else.
Yeah, my dad's an identical twin, and him and his twin were like really tight when they were younger. They're not now, but they were. They often, at some points, they went to different schools because that way they wouldn't get treated the same way. Because otherwise, they both got treated the same way.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you're identicals, it's worse because fraternals can pretend they're not twins if they want to, but identicals, it's kind of obvious when your clone is walking around.
Right.
Okay, so let's speculate. I'm going to combine these ones. So we've got some future parents that we haven't really got to see what kind of parents they're going to be. So looking at Tom and Balana, looking at Cisco in the future, should he ever come back and, see his baby mama. Riker, we've seen a little bit of him and Troy, and right now he's kind of abandoning everything.
Yep.
So out of our future parents here that we have yet to really see, who do we think is going to be the next or the worst in the future?
The worst in the future.
I think
Counts.
I think we don't know everything about Beverly yet.
Maybe Picard. And
Yeah.
as much as I don't agree with Bev not telling him and all that stuff, she's not wrong. I don't think Picard would have made a good father. He has at every turn shown himself to hate children, not really being up to that part. And when he gives the speech to those cadets a few episodes ago, he's like, yeah, Starfleet's the only family you ever really need, which is good practical advice for anybody that doesn't want to go above lieutenant. I mean, have you noticed that every parent in Star Trek is a lieutenant or less? You just don't progress. You kind of have a choice. You can make Starfleet your 100% family, or you can take the career and kids and stuff route.
Norman says that he thinks Tom and Balana would be the best parents, and I want to hear that argument because I'm very curious, because I think Balana has some issues.
I would bet it's because they both have kind of bad parents and would be determined to be better.
Yeah. And I mean, their baby being born under unusual circumstances, literally as they're coming back into the quadrant and everything. And the fact that we know that they can live together in closed quarters for 7 years and not kill each other. Because, I mean, when you're in a relationship, I mean, moving in is like, can you stand being around each other all the time?
Right.
Yeah, I think they're good parents because they're realistic. They're in the middle. Are they going to be the perfect parents? No, but they come from enough of two different backgrounds and different upbringings themselves that they'll probably bring enough of, well, this is how our parents screwed up. Let's fix this.
Yep.
I find it interesting that all these TNG parents are actually bad parents because I think I made the comment earlier in the chat that it reinforces my theory that they were all married to the fleet first.
It's fair.
Well, and it was the first time writers were including children in the storylines, because up until TNG, there weren't kids on spaceships, starships. Yes, I'm awake. But yeah, I think that was something that the writers kind of played around with for a while before they got, I wouldn't say good, but I'll say better at writing plots that included children.
Right.
But I think the side effect of that is that they wrote plots for children where children are on their own, or they have a parent who's not part of their story.
Okay, I don't think we have any other questions.
I got one.
Wow, we actually came to the end of them?
I don't know about that, but there's been a couple of things that have occurred to me while we've been talking. First off, to go to a couple of parents apparently nobody thought of. What do you guys think Trip and T'Pol would have been like as parents if their daughter had survived?
Oh.
Florida man and xenophobic Vulcan, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really would have. And especially being so early in Starfleet, like what would the regulations be? They would be blazing the trail on that.
That's like the meme.
They're taking notes.
Well, that's like the meme where it's Janeway talking to Harry Kim after his ill-advised affair, and it's like, and this is why the book on personal relationships is 45 years. And then on the meme, it's got Trip and it's got Kirk and.
Yep. I think yeah, in the same way that Balana and Tom would probably make good parents, despite them not being perfect people or, look like they're gonna be able to do it well on the surface.
Right.
That they've got enough background that I think it would make a really interesting pairing, and they would probably be okay.
Okay. One more. Knowing what we know. Lower Decks, Admiral and Captain Freeman.
Oh my God.
I'm saying, how do we rank them as parents, like as Beckett's parents?
Horrible.
Really?
The captain, yeah.
I mean, they've been taking some extreme measures to keep her in Starfleet, to like keep her from messing up her life.
Yeah, but she also turned her back on her in that one episode, and I can't forgive her for that because Mariner did not deserve that.
Nobody deserves Starbase 80.
No. But I almost get the sense that the captain and the admiral are those kind of parents that really do best when they're not in the same house.
They don't ever seem to be like on the same planet, but yeah.
These totally different attitudes about, and they're the only thing that seems to unite them is the fact that neither one wants to deal with their daughter.
Yeah, it's obviously like that's your long-term look at what does Starfleet do to parents that bring their kid up through it and when they're both in it. And the answer is usually not well, unfortunately. And yeah, I don't think they're necessarily bad parents. They're not good parents. It's in the way that Beverly Crusher, she's actually one of the better depicted parents, and she's not great.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other ones I can think that would be really bad would be Q and Mrs. Q.
Yeah. I take points off for Q not just as a parent, but also in that role kind of like as a mentor or a father figure. Because think back to the earlier episodes when like he tried to give Riker Q powers and that didn't work out. And he didn't. I mean, you could say he did a good job with Amanda Rogers because she like embraced her Q side, but she was trying to kind of balance it out with trying to be human, and he was not really encouraging that. So,
well, he was initially sent there to kill her. Susie Q chose to be the absentee mother. Yeah, but if you were married to Q, you'd probably want to be the absentee mother too. I mean,
yeah, but that you can't say that it's justified to be an absentee mother just because you don't like the father.
No,
that
I'm just teasing.
Work.
I'm just teasing.
I know, but I thought I'd throw that out there for clarification.
And I think it's funny that the actress plays two characters who abandon, or in one way or another, abandon their sons. So,
well, Kaylar didn't mean to because she died.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, the actress got stuck in these roles where it's like, bye, kids, I'm leaving.
But I mean, Q really, I mean, his whole thing of parenting boiled down to, well, how else can I save the continuum? Nobody's popped a kid in centuries, if not eons. We don't even know how to do that anymore. So let's have a nice little World War II fantasy game. And this.
And then we'll go
Civil War
on Aunt Kathy's lap. No problem.
I mean, I do like the difference when you see him when he first comes back in that episode, and he's like, oh, he's so cute, pushing little planets out of orbit and everything. And then when he comes back when he's a teenager, it's like, God help me. Because, you know, the single woman who runs a starship is going to know how to parent. Do we have any other questions?
Not off the top of my head.
I think we got them all.
All right. Well, we did this in just an hour. This has been a really solid test of some new streaming software.
Yeah.
We're gonna move our normal time to talk about Picard to Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join us then. Hopefully Mr. Know-It-All jumps in with us. An old friend, Vanessa, from I Love Bad Star Trek, I think is going to join us this week. So it ought to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see everybody then. And otherwise, look for us every Sunday, and we might do some more topics like this randomly. So live long and prosper. Thanks for joining.